All right. Welcome back to Who is the Red Queen? Last off, we left from the invitation to go to the Duchess party, and now let's not waste any more time. Let's go. Let's see. Our ride stopped amongst a number of other carriages. I alighted, helping her down, and we walked up to the Duchess's manor. It resembled a large white castle, towering against the day sky with pointed roofing. Yeah, I was gonna say, that doesn't look like a mansion. A guard stopped us at the entrance. Is it a card guard? Halt! Please show your invitation card. I handed the guard the card. He looked it over, glancing at me and the White Queen before stiffening in surprise. Your Majesty, the White Queen? Making eyes toward another guard, the guard gestured and led us inward a few steps through the entranceway. The guard's fellow quickly darted inside as if to report the appearance of a rare visitor. To enter, guests must provide an arm. The arm will be returned to you whenever you wish to leave the party. Arm? An arm? A limb? The guard nodded. Yes, I am afraid I cannot make an exception for anyone. Is that why it's so normal for the Red Queen to just be torn into pieces? Offer the Red Queen's arm? Offer my own arm. It would be quite suspicious if I gave the Red Queen's arm. I don't have the Red Queen's arm. Offer my own arm. I looked toward the White Queen. Alice, why not chop off the White Bird's arm? You had already taken one royal's arm, so another's arm was not much more Alice. I shook my head to dispel the thoughts. Would this arm suffice? I extended my own arm to the guard, ignoring that the White Queen tugged on my cloak while shaking her head to tell me to rethink. The guard nodded, leading us to the side and having me keep the arm outstretched above the table. He retrieved a clean, shining blade. Oh my god. The blade glittered with the sun like the moon. Good lord. With a clean cut, my arm came straight off. It fell to the table with a small bounce. A sharp pain hit me in the next moment. I stumbled back into the White Queen, gritting my teeth as blood rushed out of the wound and dripped red. She reached out a cold hand to touch my shoulder. I squeezed my eyes shut in expectation of a jolt of pain to run down the vet now severed arm. However, the pain never arrived. A numbness filled my flesh. The red seemed to slow. White Queen. A doctor arrived with some sort of medicine that she applied to the wound. Once the bleeding ceased, she bandaged my injury, warning me not to remove the bandage before I reobtained my arm. She made a respectful bow toward the White Queen. Alice, could you reattach such a limb? You weren't a lizard, but a mere human. A little lightheaded, I shook off the question. The guard retrieved my arm, placing it into a sealed box, before handing it off to another servant who took it away to a safe place. Okay, I guess we're going in with one arm. Please enter, esteemed guests. Are we to expect that everyone is just one arm less? Okay, I gotta see what this is about. Alice, this was not necessary. What was on your mind before you? Oops, sorry. Hold on. I don't know what this. Oh, this is just a next. Oh, got it. Okay. The guard began to lead us in. Alice, this was not necessary. What was on your mind before you offered your arm? Nothing in particular. Taisho Roman piano. We arrived at the Duchess's ballroom. The floor was wide, open, and remarkably polished. Golden chandeliers hung above, the light reflecting against the floor. Few chairs sat between the large rounded windows. A painting sat on the farthest wall. Although the hostess was nowhere to be found, servants milled around the floor with refreshments for the guests. A quartet performed in the front. Food sat at the tables to the sides of the room. All around were faceless people, dressed up like clowns. Okay. The moment the White Queen stepped foot into the room, all heads turned toward her. A horde approached us, circling around the White Queen, so that she could not easily escape. Yet they kept their distance, as if gazing upon a rare zoo animal. Greetings to your Majesty, the White Queen. Have you been well? We have nothing but gratitude for all you have done for this kingdom in the face of tyranny. Her Majesty was... Oh no. Was this still a difficult topic to speak of? You'll jinx it. If you speak of the devil will appear. Your Majesty, won't you come visit the marquisdom? Your white hair is beautiful as snow today. No wonder you are so adored. Your beauty was such that even she was so enamored with your presence. She? She was... we shouldn't speak of her. I wish I could touch your skin. No. You did us a good deed. A paragon of virtue. The heavens must sing your praises. You are truly the queen with a divine right to watch over Wonderland. It must weigh heavily on you to have had to take such drastic measures. But what are your plans now on the empty throne? The rabbit, an animal, still thinks that she can be found. This is what we get for letting vermin rise up the ranks. But no one else wanted to be in that position. You say that because you're incompetent. Truly this kingdom might fall into disarray, Your Majesty. Do you have any intentions for who should be delegated to rebuild Wonderland? You've worked so hard, so why not take a good rest and let others do the dirty work? My husband, as always. Your husband isn't exactly here right now. Wasn't he banned for making a ruckus? Your Majesty, please don't take offense, but I know a wonderful place, brilliant volcanic springs, to recuperate from being locked away for so long. If you would reconsider my brother. Good lord. The White Queen appeared quite bored. White Queen. My hand brushing against hers. I was sick of hearing all the drivel leaking from the faceless crowd's mouths like half-chewed slop. She nodded. She took on a professional expression. We must go see the Duchess now, to talk about matters of the Red Queen. Upon mention of the Red Queen from the White Queen's mouth, the pigs surrounding the White Queen collectively gasped and took a few steps back. Could it be? She nodded ambiguously, causing them to scatter with one excuse or another. There was a smile on her face. Soon, a servant approached, telling us that the Duchess was ready to meet us in the parlor, and that we could head over as soon as we wanted. Her smile turned troubled. I spoke too soon. Was that simply a bluff to make them back away? Yes. It may be just as well that we meet with the Duchess because you are searching for the Red Queen to find your way back home. Shall we, Alice? I followed the White Queen through the manor hallways, glancing left and right at familiar, unfamiliar. The long hallways were just as regal as the ballroom. Red carpets rolled out along their length. Alice, the Duchess must have redecorated. What unspoken good deed had you done that the swine, I mean those nobility, would not leave you alone, White Queen? She made a sad smile. Absolutely nothing. She stopped. I stopped. The Duchess welcomes you. The guard before a room bowed and opened the door, letting us into the Duchess's parlor. It was quite open, with two brown sofas on either end of a coffee table for guests. Tasteful and subtle art pieces hung on the walls, one of an angel on one wall and another of a devil on the opposite. Lit by the natural lighting streaming in from the windows, was a desk that sat before the guest sitting area. Inside sat a featureless woman who hid her face. Instinct told me that she was ugly, yet I could not see anything, not disfigurement nor beauty. I perceived her. She was the Duchess. Welcome, Your Majesty the White Queen. And what name did you go by now? Yes, Alice. The Duchess looked at the White Queen before glancing toward me, returning a sense of pity toward us. Your heart is still entangled. The White Queen made a troubled face. You didn't come to me for that advice, beloved White Queen. I believe you wanted to speak to me about our dearest Majesty, the missing Red Queen. Yes, it's Alice's matter. We told the Duchess about my circumstances. I fell into this world unknown and was seeking out the Red Queen in order to find a way home. We left out the part where the Red Queen was dismembered, but the Duchess already knew. You are searching for the Red Queen, but the Red Queen has been dismembered. To even request aid from her, you must assemble all of her pieces. As the Duchess spoke, the White Queen had a distant gaze. As it so happens, I have her left leg in my possession. The White Queen's lids lifted in surprise. She smiled diplomatically. In that case, would you give it to us? I will be giving it to a pair of guests at today's ball. It would be unfair for me to hand it off to you, when another pair would have had to show their prowess to earn the limb. Prowess? The White Queen frowned. I will offer something in exchange. You have nothing to offer, nor you have a true desire to meet our dearest Majesty again in this form or another. Of course, these are only my own thoughts. Forgive me for assuming, but I cannot give you the limb like this. Rather than letting her offer something in exchange, would it not be better for me to do so as the person searching? What could convince you to give up the limb, Duchess? I will hold a little game today, and if you win, then the limb will be yours. A game? Yes, a game. Our dearest Majesty loved her games, even if they were much too often cruel. Cruel games with no winner, not even herself. The White Queen looked angry. Okay, I'm sure that Her Majesty the White Queen remembers. The White Queen's expression quickly shifted to an upset one. Will you not do me a favor, Duchess? No, not even for you, Her Majesty's most beloved. I had a feeling. ... question mark. The White Queen looked away. Again, she was smiling. Finding little more we could say to convince the Duchess, we left the Duchess's parlor, seen off to the door by her. We returned to the ballroom to wait. The quartet continued playing. The previous crowd saw the troubled look on the White Queen's face and decided not to approach, only watching her from afar. Dancing pairs filled the floor. The White Queen eyed me as if she wanted to request something. When I turned to question her, she pretended to look at the refreshments. Do you like dancing? She looked hesitant. Just the normal amount. She likes it. You needn't feel restricted by me. I'll be fine by myself if you would prefer to have a dance, or if you, now that you're here. She smiled. Alice, what is it? May I invite you to dance? Of course. I won't be much good at dancing without an arm. The White Queen frowned. I extended my stump arm out from under my cloak, waving it before her as a reminder. Perhaps I had been too hasty earlier in chopping it off. She gave a sheepish look. Another time? She smiled sadly. Yes, another time. As we idled about, a single gentleman approached the White Queen, stumbling over his words as he invited her for a dance. She looked toward me for confirmation, but I couldn't exactly stop her, so I made a non-committal gesture. Her choices were her own. She took his hand and they went for a dance. Eye-catching. She really was eye-catching. I couldn't look away from her as if she would somehow disappear. She was pretty, incomprehensibly so in my heart. While I watched, she met my gaze from far away, and mouthed words I could not decipher. How unpleasant, watching her in the hands of another. Alice, even if just for one dance. Music stopped along with the dancing. It was at this time that the Duchess made her appearance. Behind her was a servant carrying the severed leg under a red cloth. Tonight, we have a special gift to be given to a single guest. A hushed whispering ran through the ballroom as all the guests guessed at what the White Queen and I had already learned. We are holding a chess tournament. Oh, don't tell me, please, that I'm going to. I really don't want to battle chess. I'm no good at it. The usual game that ends when the queen has fallen, even here where the king has long gone. Of course, the winner will receive the prize. The servant removed the cloth. All around, the guests let out a collective gasp. What, you may ask? Why, it could only be our dearest Majesty's leg. May the best strategist win. Strategist. Strategist. The Duchess clapped. The servants began to move out, setting up tables and chess sets in a matter of minutes. With a matched-up list created, the tournament started. Here was an exercise left to the reader. If given a game, and a player terribly good at the game, what would happen? Naturally, that player would win, win, and win again. To my surprise, for this game that was chess, the player who was terribly good was the White Queen, even with the handicap of Alice as a teammate. She was smiling all the while. We made our way to the final, where we met with the last opponent, not at a table, but in a cleared-out space in the ballroom with a large chessboard overlaid. The White Queen made a troubled expression. The last opponent was the Duchess. Around her lined up stood 1 1/4 dozen soldiers dressed up in black-like chess pieces. The White Queen looks disgusted. Human chess, Duchess. Our dearest Majesty enjoyed watching games like this. One of you two have to take the role of a piece, and otherwise, I will provide the other pieces for you to play with. Please, take your time to decide. Those blades that the Duchess's black pieces wielded looked heavy and sharp, dangerous. The White Queen looked troubled. She looked to me and gave me a worried smile. Alice, let me. You could get hurt, White Queen. She frowned at my words. I would say the same to you. At the very least, the Duchess would hesitate to hurt me, for I am the White Queen. However, you are Alice. I know. In that case, we stood at a standstill for so long that the Duchess had a set of white pieces shuffle in and take their spots on the board. One of us had to be the human chess piece. I volunteer as tribute. Alice. Let me. The White Queen looked worried. I was at best mediocre at chess, even if the tutors had smacked basic strategy into me, so I preferred to trust the White Queen instead to command the board. The White Queen directed me to step onto the board as the king piece, while I was given a fake white crown and sword. I was to stay out of danger. I wonder if we had let her play as the White Queen, if she would be like slaying chess pieces left and right. Her gaze was deathly serious. She started with the first move. She appeared worried. With each command she gave to the human chess pieces, she came closer and closer to a speedy victory against the Duchess. Black pieces fell one by one. Then the Duchess spoke. Did you want to keep her in a cage, like you were? The White Queen stumbled, directing her knight to a position that she did not intend for him to go, allowing him to be cut down by the Duchess's pawn. The Duchess was a distraction. White Queen. No. A piece on the board cannot speak. We are the players, and you are but a game piece. Sending the Duchess a dirty look, I shut my mouth. The shackles that our dearest Majesty bound you with have still not been removed, despite all that you have done. Why is that? My matters do not need to be spoken of. The White Queen made a series of bad moves as the Duchess talked. This is unhealthy, Your Majesty, the White Queen. Before long, the losses on both sides of the board evened out. Taking advantage of the White Queen's state of disarray, the Duchess began her assault. One by one, our remaining white pieces fell. Blood spilled on the floor, staining white armor red. The red made the White Queen shiver and avert her eyes with pursed lips. The Black Queen came before me, and both the White Queen and I saw no way out. This is all loss. Checkmate. I raised my sword to block as the Black Queen raised her own, expecting nothing more than a mock show of swordplay, followed by my surrender. However, her blade came rushing down at me with a sharp clang. The sword in my handed grasp went flying. Her sword cut into my flesh as if I were made of butter, ripping out a swath of meat and blood onto the floor. Choking in pain, I toppled to the ground and tried to stop the bleeding. Red, spurred all over my single hand, I shakily pressed against a wound too much large. The Black Queen kicked my head like a ball with an ugly snap, forcing me down even further, before stomping down onto the freshly cut wound. I tried to drag myself away with my bloodied single arm. She skewered me to the ground with her sword and stepped down onto my arm with her armored black foot, pressing down on the elbow till we all heard a loud crack. A contorted voice escaped my mouth. Cold tears welled up in my eyes. I thought you would have liked this. No, not Alice. I heard a thump as the White Queen fell to her knees, her expression blurred in my hazy vision. Poor dear. The Black Queen stomped down on me again, forcing my insides out from the hole in my body with a squelch. Things that were never meant to come out dribbled to the ground. I tried to call out to the White Queen, but only chunks of squishy material came up my throat in a wheezing red noise. You can't let go, even after all you did, Your White Majesty, even if your domain is time. Are you aware that your own heart's time seems to have stopped? ... Everything turned to darkness. Tick. Must we try again? Talk. Oh, that's my dead end. That's my first dead end. Okay. Death 5. Nice. Okay. Script scene, 35%. Okay. I'm really glad I got the first dead end so far. But I'm still wanting to keep going. So, let's keep going. So, oh god. Okay, so what if, let's check first what happens if she's the one who plays in the chessboard. Let's still give up our arm. Yes, we know, swine, nobility, yada. Yes, thank you. I'm glad there's a skip button. The White Queen. Do you trust me? She made a sad smile. I do. Choosing to do this means you put your safety into my hands, White Queen. Are you certain that you trust me? This is a bad idea. She then gave me a confident smile. Yes, I trust you, Alice. Her eyes met mine, filling me with discomfort, as although she trusted me, I did not trust me. Given the responsibility for another person, I knew not if I could fulfill her expectations. I directed her to be the king, to be protected. The white piece already on the board handed over a fake white crown and a sword to the White Queen, taking his sleeve so that she could walk into the position. I started with the first move. Clang, my white pieces fell, but so did the Duchess's black pieces. For each of hers I took down, she captured one of mine, setting us evenly on our score. Each time I looked at the game, I ascertained that the White Queen was out of harm's way. If she were to be taken down, the game would end. If she were to be taken down, I would have failed her trust. Alice, you were soft-hearted today. I placed my hand to my chin, pondering on what my next move should be. Perhaps giving her hints would be cheating. Your Majesty the White Queen, at this moment, you are playing a piece on the board and therefore may not speak. That's a shame. You're a very amusing person, Alice. Still, I feel sorry for letting her enter your hands. The Duchess saw something that I did not see. I will take that as a compliment, Duchess. Our game continued until neither had many pieces left on the board. Surveying the results of my formulaic strategies, I found the light of victory. I nodded toward the White Queen, who had seen the same thing. Checkmate, Duchess. Nice. I'm gonna save that. And it is now 4 a.m. My White Queen cut down the Black King. The Duchess clapped her hands. The White Queen was smiling. Congratulations. This is my loss. Even facing my challenge fair and square, you have ultimately obtained the White Queen's limb. I wish you best of luck, gathering her parts, for better or for worse. I am in no position to stop you, not when even your Majesty the White Queen approves. The White Queen made a troubled smile. If our dearest Majesty is to return, then we must accept that. And end the party. The White Queen's smile disappeared. Uh-oh. Would you like to take your prize now? Yes. The White Queen made a distant, happy expression. The Duchess gestured over the servant with the prize and handed the leg to the White Queen. I hope you enjoy the rest of the ball. And, Your Majesty the White Queen, do come visit whenever you would like to talk with me again. The Duchess departed with her servant following after her. Just as quickly as she left, the chess setups were cleared away. I looked toward the White Queen, touching her hand to gain her attention. Her hand felt cold. So I'm guessing either this is what do you call it? Shackle marks or something else. She seemed surprised at my touch. Do you want to stay for longer? The White Queen shook her head. She smiled. I have had enough excitement for the day. Thank you for inviting me, Alice. Although that last game of chess was nerve-wracking, I enjoyed spending today with you. No, thank you for coming with me. I feel the same. Her smile became sad. Hatter's tea time, I got that. Just double checking. Yep. We found a servant to leave and were redirected outward. He retrieved the sealed box with our entrance fee and handed it over. The White Queen opened the box for me. Inside lied my arm and a small jar of the same medicine from before. My arm still looked fresh. Her expression was troubled. I unraveled my bandage to find an unchanged wound. Popping the arm back onto the stump, I felt a strange knitting sensation at the connection point. I applied some medicine to the arm. With a squishing sound, my arm was reattached. The only remnant of its severance was a thin pink line that slowly faded into my skin, just like with the Cheshire's arm, I'm guessing. The White Queen passed the Red Queen's severed leg to me. I will leave you with the limp. Do you want to meet with the Red Queen again? She made a sheepish, avoidant smile. That's a difficult question, Alice. I'm sensing a very past abusive relationship. I see. I already understood that she had a complicated relationship with the Red Queen, but I wanted her to look at me instead. Alice was right in front of her. No. At the very least, I wanted her to smile without looking at something so far away. Because surely the person she was looking toward was the Red Queen who had already been dismembered. We parted ways. Good. The search for the Red Queen. Let's save here as well. Taking a wrong turn, I exited to a garden, and at the far end of the garden was an exit. It was an elegant garden with plenty of flowers, and triangular hedges. In the center was a fountain. I turned back to ask the White Queen to find that she had already gone. This must have been the Duchess's garden, seeing as I had just come from her manor. I strolled through the garden, appreciating the flowers and greenery, yet couldn't help but compare it to the White Queen's garden. Perhaps I would go visit the White Queen again. Without much further ado, I made my way through the garden exit. I was back on a forest path. Not taking even 5 steps out, I stumbled. A sudden vertigo struck me. I must have had a long day. You just lost an arm. I reasoned as I held a hand to my forehead while trying to steady myself. My brain spun like a sloshed up pit of mud. I must have forgotten something very important. Ooh. I leaned back against the tree to take a break, looking upward. Eyelids flickering, I wondered if the sky had always looked so far away. The sun was beginning to set, orange hues beginning to enter the picture. My free hand, propped against the bark, slid downward unconsciously. Oh. I closed my eyes for a moment. Darkness. Oh. I slowly opened my bleary eyes to the sky. It was a starry night sky. A terrible headache battered my skull. I felt as if I had forgotten something very important. So disoriented I was. I had no idea where I was. I patted around me and noticed that I still had the limb I just retrieved with me. My head hurt. Oh, I get to decide who I want to see? Okay. Hearing footsteps, I pushed myself up to the sitting position and saw her. Hatter. Hatter's tea time. Looking around, I found that I was at the Hatter's place. Ah, just because I want to progress the story even more. I started to talk only for my throat to feel like sandpaper. Each time I blinked, my eyelids grew heavy again. A chill ran through my whole body. Uncomfortable, that was all I could say I felt. Although I had experienced quite a bit since coming to Wonderland, I had not thought I would catch a cold. Don't speak, Alice. You're burning up, so no tea for you today. I must have still been tea time, for it was always tea time. However, today, the Hatter decided to put the tea aside, even at tea time for the sick me. She brought a cup of water to my lips, tilting it for me to drink. I drank and choked. Coughing and sputtering, I felt her wipe away the water that had spilled. If you drink too quickly, you'll drown. She handed me the cup directly, fingers just barely avoiding mine, but also grasping the cup firmly till she knew that I wouldn't drop it. Drink water slowly, Alice. I've got to get something off of the stove. Seeing that I had the cup in hand, she hopped off in the direction of the stove. I thought back to when we first met. At that time, the thing on the stove had been a hammer, so I hoped that she would bring back something more pleasant. I sipped from the water cup and waited, setting it aside once I finished. She returned with a bowl of porridge in hand. Sitting down next to me, she scooped up a spoonful of porridge and blew it lightly to cool it down. As the porridge as the porridge temperature settled, she moved the spoon toward my mouth. I instinctively opened my mouth like a baby bird. I can eat myself. I can eat myself. I would rather you not cannibalize yourself. She fed me porridge, spoonful by spoonful. Once the porridge was finished, she put the bowl away and gave me another cup of water. While letting me sip the water, she wiped away the sweat on my forehead. Also, I forgot to mention it's raining. You're good at taking care of people. Really? I've never quite had. My words drifted off into silence as I thought back to what little I had to say about taking care of others and being taken care of. Hatter, the limb. I'll put it away for you. You know me so well, Hatter, and I could barely keep my eyes open. Rest well. The Hatter placed a cool, trembling hand on my forehead. Then into the realm of hypnosis I fell. After a few days of good rest under the Hatter's care, I recovered to full health. I hadn't been so sick in years. What the heck happened? Why are you so sick? Thank you, Hatter. What for? Don't linger too long at this crowded place. Off you go. Don't you have some body parts left to find, Alice? So I do. Seeing me once more healthy, she shooed me away. I was back on the forest path. That was a lot more uneventful than I thought it would be. Can I look at the... So we're still in chapter 2. The Red Queen was newly assembled, missing only her head and a fourth limb. Onward, I continued with my search, so that she could send me home. I was on the forest path. I thought back to the Cheshire Cat's taunting provocations. Thinking of her taunting flick, I had no idea where she could be, for she always appeared and disappeared as she pleased. I returned to the endless tea party. I had a quick chat with the Hatter to find out. Are you acquainted with the Cheshire Cat? The Hatter's eyes narrowed. Cheshire. The Hatter moved Dormouse as if she were upset. She's scary. The Hatter moved the March Hare as if he were exasperated. Always always step up in the trees. The Hatter smiled as she spoke. She's usually around the northern end of the forest. The cat always says she has business, so she can't stay for tea. Even though I never invited her. The Hatter grinned. Yes, we're acquaintances, but definitely not friends. If you're looking for that cat, don't bring her back here. We're low on seats as it is. And then she sneered. Next thing you know, you'll have to be chopped up to fit in a teapot. Ta-ta. The Tree of One gave me a jaunty wave. Taking the Hatter's words, I started off to explore the forest's north. I walked down many twists and turns, stumbling across uneven ground. The path was rougher here and the foliage thicker. I found not another living being in sight, no cats nor others. After a while, I reached a place with two signs pointing opposite directions. One red cliff and the other not a cliff. I'm sensing a save. I let out a chuckle. They were straightforward enough signs, but I couldn't see where they led past bushes, blocking beyond their arrows. Ding-ling. The ring of a small bell entered my ears, followed by the clatter of metal shackles. Cheshire Cat. I received no response. Accompanying me here was only the breeze that would sometimes hit the leaves of the trees around me. I heard a soft rustling noise, but when I looked toward the sound, I saw nothing. I tilted my head to look further upward, and there she is. The world shifted. The air rush pushed out of my lungs. A black and orange blur crashed down on me with great momentum from the sky, slamming me to the ground. If my head had hit a different way, my skull would have been cracked on the ground. I moved just in time to harshly bang my shoulder instead. I thought I'd get it done in one shot. Cheshire. The blur, the Cheshire Cat, filled my spinning field of view. She wrapped both hands around my neck, digging in with her sharp nails. I didn't see the music though. Shit. Hold on, was there, what music was it? Sorry. Battle Impact. Okay. Her left arm flickered in and out of existence as if it wasn't really there, creating an unbalanced pressure about my throat. Her grip tightened, drawing blood. I couldn't breathe. She squeezed even tighter. I tried to pry her fingers off with my own. My twitching hands clawed at her constricting grip and even scratched my own neck. More than the pain of the flesh wounds, I was going lightheaded from the lack of air. I just barely forced her off my neck. I wheezed, coughing to catch breath. She grabbed my collar, grip on the left, flickering in and out, and slammed me back to the ground after lifting me up a little. Lord, I couldn't even ask why she was doing this as vertigo overwhelmed me. Kicking and flailing randomly, I managed to push her off for a moment. I had to reorient myself, get to my feet, just roll away from her somehow. Not a cliff. I'm gonna regret this. Let's go to the cliff. I tumbled through the bushes in the direction labeled as cliff. The signs around here had nonsense written on them many times more than not. As I expected, my chosen direction had no cliff in sight. Yes. I shakily got to my feet and watched the cat do so as well. She immediately lunged at me again. This time, I was more prepared. I kneed her in the stomach as she approached, grabbing her right shoulder and twisting while looking at my foot on hers. Forcing her arm down, I heard a slight cracking noise and made her fall to the ground with a thump. Just in case, I kicked her away a bit. Her body was light like a cat. I'm waiting for an explanation. She started to fade away, but I stepped on her before she could get away. After a quick struggle, she relented and got up to her feet without any further fading. The cat snarled, dusting off her body. The Cheshire Cat frowned. I hadn't realized who you were before. My cloak may have a hood, but you've seen my face many times already, Cheshire Cat. She scowled. Wonderland's twisted up in time. She jeered. That sort of logic doesn't work here. It's mad. All mad. You might be Alice, but who is Alice? Now that's the question we have to ask. Her lips curled into a mocking smile. To start with, you don't know anything. Do you even know who you are, Alice? I'm Alice. That is all. That was my sole truth. She returned to a frown, deep in thought. But who in the world is Alice? An outsider, a temporary visitor. I just about figured out the most important part. If you figured it out, I don't suppose you tell me. You are... She grimaced in pain. She pressed her hand against her head. Then she took on a jeer. Somehow, you're much too similar to the Mad Queen. Oh, about that Mad Queen. You've been looking for her, but let me tell you this. She's been dead for a while now. Although I think you should already know. She scowled. I can't put it into words for some reason. Maybe it's just the way you look at the world, but you're definitely the same type of person. In which way? Are you just trusting some gut feeling, some delusion that I might be the same as someone who I've never met? Or as you say, someone who is long dead? She stared at me with determination. This world can't afford another Red Queen, not even a chance of one. She vanished, taking the chance in our conversation. Criminals needed to be locked up. I looked all around, hearing the faintest sound of her shackles telling me that she was nearby, but I could not see her actual presence. So why don't you do me a favor, Alice? Just go ahead and die. I wonder if we had chosen to go with Cheshire Cat the first time, if she would have done this as well. Her voice danced through the air formlessly. You have no qualification to an actual form of justice, Cat. That really is just like her to say. She appeared behind me and attacked again. Oof. I fell to the ground to tussle once more. She clawed me a few times, but I gradually gained the advantage. The cat favored her right arm. Rather, her left arm acted transient, coming in and out of existence, forcing her to avoid relying on it. Her handicap forced her to falter more than my now numb shoulder did me. She fought like an animal. To be fair, she was an animal. Biting, clawing, and all the likes, she came at me with the intent to kill. We continued till we were both bloodied and bruised. I punched her straight in the face, causing her to bite her tongue and choke up a mouthful of red. Her head bounced on the ground, throwing her next moves into disarray. I hit the cat again, and again. Doing this with my bare hands wasn't exhilarating as much as it was just a matter of fact. I had decided that I preferred this nuisance out of my hair. I noticed that her right arm was stitched on. Uh-oh, the arm felt familiar, as if it didn't belong to the Cheshire Cat. Oh, Alice, that cat was also a thief. I wanted that arm. I'm gonna politely ask for it because even though we're fighting against my will, I'm still wanna be polite and not get into too much trouble. That arm doesn't belong to you. Give it back, Cheshire Cat. Why should I? I ask politely because I would prefer to let you part with it on your own terms. If I must, I would take more drastic measures. The cat squirmed under me, but I forced her down, sitting atop her body. I have no intention of staying in Wonderland. My current adventures through this world are entirely to find a way back to my own world. As such, Cheshire, if you would hand over the arm, then we should have no further interactions. I will endeavor not to meet with you again, unless it has to do with my way home. Cheshire? I can't fight anymore. Attention left her muscles, signaling to me that she had given up. She let out a scornful bark like a laugh as she acquiesced. Fine, I'll give you the arm. So get off. She made a weak motion as if to push me off. No, give me the arm first. Fine. Bruised black and blue, bloody from our brawl, the Cheshire Cat twitched her stolen arm, looking at it hesitantly as if unwilling to lose it. She shook her head. A faint cracking noise from her neck made her let out a whine of pain. She nudged her cape closer to her face and bit into it. Then, with a flickering left arm, body twisted in an odd position under me, she tore the arm off of her own body with a slow and bloody rip. I heard the oddest sounds of flesh being rent from flesh. Through the cape came muffled groans. Tears glittered in her eyes. After what seemed like an eternity, the cat chucked the removed arm to the side. Blood dripped out of the stump from which the limb was removed. The limb, too, made a crimson mess on the grass. Is that enough for you, Alice? I nodded. Now get off. I stood up from the cat, feeling a wave of dizziness hit me along with a throbbing headache. She rolled over in pain and started pushing herself up, stumbling and falling a number of times onto the grass with an ugly red splat. Finally limping to her feet, a Cheshire cat vanished. That was an ordeal, my God. Now, there was no more Cheshire cat. Gotcha. I picked up the severed right arm. The limb appeared different now that it was detached from the cat. It more resembled its fellow limbs, sans a regal torn sleeve. The broken shackle about its wrist fell off without me having to do a thing. Alice, did you recognize this arm? Yes, I answered. This was the Red Queen's arm. A jolt of pain burst through my head. I did not know why I knew, and amidst my agony, I did not have the heart to care. I stumbled, clutching my head. Wait, we have all the limbs? Yeah, we have all the limbs. The world warped and blurred around me. I'm gonna save. I felt dizzy, looking at the distorted landscape. Or perhaps my dizziness itself distorted the landscape into an undulating thing that made me want to vomit. As my adrenaline drained, the results of the fight began to show themselves. My whole body felt sore. The raging headache pounding at my skull would not subside. Are we almost done? Black and red began to fill my vision. Oh. The ground shifted beneath my feet. Maybe. Falling. Alice was falling. My world turned to darkness, and all I heard was laughter. Thump. At some point, I made my way back to the Hatter's place. Hello, Hatter. I handed over the limb as I had just obtained. At least from what I could tell from the passage of time, it should have been only recently that I had taken this limb from its past owner. I didn't know. The Hatter took the limb and threw it into the dog cage with all the others. She grinned. With this, you've gathered all of Her Majesty's limbs. Oh, so I have. You look terrible. You look terrible right now, Alice. Her eyes narrowed. Like us. Like us. I'm tired. The Hatter smiled. Take a nap. Tea time isn't going anywhere. Not unless time grows back its severed head and walks away, don't you think? We can always talk a little later. Thank you. I slumped back into my armchair, sinking into the oddly scented cushions. She sneered. Good night, Alice. Good night, Alice. This may be the last. Then she looked a little lonely. I almost feel a little sorry. I almost feel a little sorry. A dormouse, March. I won't stop. I didn't hear what the Hatter said afterward over the raging white noise of my headache. My vision blurred, eyes becoming watery. Eyelids heavy, I fell asleep. Oh. Then I was dreaming, falling into the dream. Tick tock, tick tock. I dreamt of a throne. A dark and terrible throne, so horribly cold. It was such a lonely throne. The eye on the throne was arrogant and happy to be alone. No, I thought even she had someone she loved. A beautiful person. Yet that person she loved was a beautiful person, so fragile and beautiful that she wanted to slowly tear off that person's wings. Uh-oh. But her love was wrong. If she wasn't happy, then she would lose everything. Alice, Alice, you were exactly this person. No, it wasn't. Was I? As I opened my mouth to speak, blood began to leak through my lips. The only sound that came out was an empty gurgle. Were you happy? No. I could not talk. I could not taste. Even though red dripped down my chin, I felt as if my tongue had been snipped out. Blood choked me. Gasping in nothing but liquid, I grasped at my throat. Alice, I was drowning in this dream. You were never happy. Never. When I awoke, I forgot all that I dreamed. I forgot all that I dreamt of. I opened my eyes to an empty feeling in my mind. Disoriented, I nearly rolled off of my armchair in which I had gone to sleep. I sat up and stifled a yawn, rubbing the bridge of my nose. I blinked. I blinked again, chasing away a haze. I felt as if I had forgotten something very important. In the meanwhile, the Hatter brought over a decorated cake, much more elaborate than the usual snacks at her eternal tea time. It was a cake with cream and fruits, two-layered even, with flowers and pictures carved up with the food ingredients. I could only call it a pretty cake. She grinned cheekily, winking. Just in time for tea, Alice. As I got up from my armchair, the Hatter lightly pushed me back down. My behind landed on the cushion with a soft bounce. It seemed I could not but sit. She stared at me before sticking a handful of candles into the cake, lighting them with a match. You know what I just noticed? Hatter's bow is exactly like the White Queen's. Almost exactly the same. As in the placement, now that I'm thinking about it. It's almost the exact same. The Hatter made a devilish wide grin. Flick, the flame glowed on the head of the match for just a few seconds. After settling the candles, she began clapping her hands to an unsteady rhythm. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Dear Alice. A terribly offbeat, off-balance song. Oh, she was singing. She sang and her voice warped as she said my name today. A certain darkness flickered in her mismatched eyes. She sneered. Happy birthday to you. I didn't understand. I couldn't understand. I simply watched as she finished the song with a small clap and pushed the cake a bit closer to me. What is this for, Hatter? Certainly today was not my birthday. Didn't I tell you? Don't you remember? You get a special prize for bringing me all 4 limbs, Alice. Since it's not your birthday, it must be your unbirthday. All 364 days of the year. Picking up a knife, she cut out a slice of cake and slid it over to me. I caught it in a hurry, and soon enough, she poured me a cup of tea that 2 came rushing over. I noticed the hammer on the table right next to the cake knife. She gestured, urging me to have a taste. The calming scent of the tea wafted to my nose and mixed with sweet milky cream. The celebratory cake slice looked so charming, I almost felt it ashamed to eat. I picked up the cup of tea and took a sip. This is my favorite. After enjoying some tea, I started on the cake. As I ate, the Hatter placed the box before me. She was still sneering. Open your present, Alice. Chop it open. Smash it open. Any way you'd like to. It's a head, isn't it? I surveyed the box. An odd and plain box, just big enough to store an animal. From the outside, I could not tell what might lie inside. I cracked open a small gap, afraid to disturb what could be hidden inside. Shadows blocked my vision. I saw nothing, but I heard a low gurgling, drowning sound, a strange and strangled voice, one that sent a chill rolling up my neck. Throbbing headache hit me again. In one go, I flung the lid off. It's a head. It's a head. There she is. Oh, it's red because of blood? Inside, was inside. Inside was a head. A bloodied head. Huh? A head. A woman's head. A girl's head. A head that should have been dead. A much too familiar face. A much too foreign face. I didn't quite understand what I was looking at, even as the world seemed to shift around me. Her matted hair was blonde. Her bloody skin was pale. But her unfocused eyes were not blue. Rather, they were red. Alice, you knew who that face Alice, you knew who that face belonged to. Alice? Whose head is this? I stumbled to my feet to back away, only to fall back onto the armchair from my loss of equilibrium. This wasn't right. The face looked just like mine. Just almost. Almost. I clutched my neck and touched my face to make sure that I was still here. This was the Red Queen. This was Alice. This was the severed head, Alice. Whose head is this? I wanted to ask, but instead, a strangled cry escaped my throat. I couldn't move my eyes away from the so-called prize that the Hatter had given to me. Blood pooled at the bottom of the box, sticky and dark. How terrible. I reached a trembling hand to touch it, but it wasn't my place to try to close her eyes, or put her to peace. The head was still moving, twisting with a squelch and squish. Its wet, ragged sound of raspy breathing echoed in my skull. I jerked my hand back and covered my ears. I couldn't look away. Now, aren't you glad you needn't find Her Majesty's head? As if laughing at me, as if she truly didn't mean that, with an odd tilt of her voice as she spoke of the Red Queen, the Hatter confirmed the head's owner. She walked over to the Red Queen, flinging the dog cage open, and popped the limbs onto the torso one by one. As they reattached, they began to flail and grab at the Hatter. This time she was prepared and grabbed her hammer. Hatter, with a pair of loud bangs, she hammered nails for the corpse's hands into the Red Queen's chair. Red dripped to the ground. The hands twitched, the body writhed. The body writhed. A ghostly pain ran up my arms as my stomach churned. I felt dizzy. What? Hatter. I discovered that I had nothing to say. Even though I always had thoughts racing through my mind, I had nothing to say. Alice, that was why you were worthless. Ask something. Anything. I touched my face to see if my lips had curled up without me thinking to. Didn't you want to leave this place? Now you found the Red Queen. If you have something you'd like to talk with her about, I'll let you take care of that before I proceed with my own business. She pushed the Red Queen over, chair scraping on the ground, with a hideous squeal, and stopped only when I sat face to face with the headless, shifting body. Taking the head out of the box, the Hatter put it onto the body. The skin and meat deformed, contorting till the pieces of neck met exactly where they should. Then it all knitted together with something unnatural crawling under the skin. I shuddered at the hollow sound made from the corpse as their throat connected. Uh-oh. The Red Queen looked at me with dead red eyes. Uh-oh. I didn't know what she went through, but she looked terrible. I realized that I hadn't ever asked who killed her like this, nor had I ever stumbled upon an answer the same way I had found all the limbs. Oh yeah, this was the Red Queen. Alice. This was me. The requests I had been pondering on, the wishes to go back home, the want to ask her for her help, they all flew out of my mind. Because this wasn't right. The face I was looking at, battered and bloodied as it appeared, was not right. I couldn't speak, but she did. Mouthing words yet making no sound besides the hollow whistle of a crushed throat, the Red Queen began to talk without saying a thing. Her tongue was missing, and we had to do something about that. Where's the tongue? I tried to find my own tongue, stumbling with the pulsing pressure in the back of my head before I could articulate my next inquiry. Hatter, where is the Red Queen's tongue? I didn't want to hear her voice, so I tore it out and fed it to the dogs. You have dogs? The Red Queen wasn't complete without a tongue, although she squirmed in the chair, causing the nails to creak. It seemed like she didn't truly have her soul. Alice, you were so close. The corpse looked upon us with stagnant eyes. That should mean I needn't bother searching for it then. What were your intentions, Hatter? Am I the Red Queen? At this point, I still knew nothing about the Red Queen, but that she shared my face, and of the various gossips I overheard on the ruler. Alice. Looking at the Hatter's mismatched eyes, I could see what she thought for the first time. She was sneering. What do you think? ... She frowned at my silence. Let me tell you a story, Your Majesty. So I was Your Majesty now. As the Hatter spoke, she appeared frustrated, angry. A long time ago, in this corner of Wonderland, there lived a group of 3 friends. A mouse, a hare, and a Hatter. We lived far away from bustling society, usually just coming together for tea. I made hats, and they did mouse and hare things. Once we had been dragged to perform like clowns for visitors to this kingdom, but only that once, for Her Majesty hadn't quite appreciated our lack of skill. Her Majesty ran the court of law. A strict queen, some called her. A mad queen, some whispered. A tyrant, most could not even dare to say. I think this story should be predictable, don't you? We were called into court one day. The reason? Maybe only to be judged. She proclaimed us guilty and had us sentenced. I, for no reason, received the lightest sentence of the day. I came away with my neck still intact, not knowing a thing. Thrown into prison and starved. Only just that much. When I came out, the streets were filled with newly spilled blood, and 2 very familiar heads rolled my way. Crows feasted on carrion, only for even them to be swept away by the Queen's cart. Do I need to explain further? Perhaps you really are blind and deaf. I can't do that, laugh. Dormouse and March Hare are dead. For what? For the sole crime of offending our world's tyrant. And so Hatter has been all alone for a long time. I can never forgive the Red Queen. The Hatter's smile disappeared. She looked disappointed. But she went and upped and died. Who let her get away with like that so easily? Also, you didn't do it. You didn't kill her. She sneered again. You who are the same entity as the Red Queen, I can't let you go. Don't you understand? She glared at me. Hatter, for the sake of my revenge, you have to die, Alice. She spun the hammer in her hands, her face devoid of mirth as she stepped closer to me, meeting my eyes with her mismatched pair. This is my justice, Alice. Goodbye, Alice. Goodbye. She raised that hammer in her hand above my head. Is this a dead end? Why did she look like she was about to cry? Crack. Then I was falling. Oh wait. Is this going to fall in line with my theory from the very beginning, where Alice in the real world jumped off somewhere high, and this is like the time where she finally lands? Then I was falling. Falling. I was falling. Down this rabbit hole with no start nor end. I was falling. My skull and brain pieced itself together, twisting as if going back in time. I re-experienced the pain of having my head caved in with a hammer. I was going mad. A wetness, perhaps tears, perhaps brain matter, rolled down my face as I tried to comprehend. I should have died. I felt as if I was remembering something very important. I landed in Wonderland once more. Alice? The first person to greet me was once more the White Rabbit. I grabbed at my head only to find no injuries, no red, no longer able to differentiate between dream and reality. I questioned if I had merely been hallucinating the whole time. Then I was falling again. I died again. Alice. Each time I fell, it came back down. Alice! It became a hazy world, a distorted world, a world that was beginning to lose its colors. Time and time and time again, falling, falling, falling. I seemed to revert the hourglass and turn back the hands of the clock, each time going into another past. Before I knew it, the rabbit had changed. Your Majesty. She was a bit more polite. Your Majesty. Perhaps a bit more cool in her eyes, a bit less restrained with the darkness in her gut. She called out to me each and every time. Your Majesty. The rabbit was my starting point, my saving point. Falling, falling, falling. I kept falling uncontrollably. Falling, landing, dying, falling. I no longer felt as if I had control of even my own body anymore. My world flickered on and off. It hurt. Dying hurt. I didn't want to deal with this anymore. Alice, you had to deal with this. I didn't want to. I didn't want to. I really didn't want to. I didn't want to deal with this anymore. Again, I fell. I felt my body on the ground. With hazy eyes, I saw a familiar figure and heard it speak with a familiar voice as murmurs reached my ears from all around. Her face and her words. Not a single thing could I make out. Before I even got the chance to see the rabbit, a growingly familiar sensation struck me. Pain. A sharp agony burned in my arms, till I suddenly could not feel my fingers. Then the same came to my legs. Chop, chop, there they went. A limb or two or three or four. Off they went until suddenly I had none for myself. Soon a blade cut from my neck, sawing it as it got stuck and stabbing again and again till the head finally came off, and I was falling again. So far I am enjoying this streak that I got it right. I apologize for the growing rain. It's been usually raining this hard around near dawn, maybe. What time is it? 4:43. Okay. Drowning through the flesh, clogging my throat, as it all reattached. Drowning through the flesh, clogging my throat, as it all reattached, I came to a realization. Oh, I understood. Alice, what had you understood? I was dumb. I'd certainly gone mad. I couldn't handle this anymore. Even if I still wanted to go home, it wouldn't do me any good anyhow. Maybe this was a dream, an illusion. Just how long was I supposed to keep falling? Alice, you would never awaken from this dream. Then I was falling again. I decided to stop thinking and only keep falling. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Yes. I opened my eyes to a courtroom with an air of fear. Watching. I was simply watching through another's eyes, sitting in the back of her head. I wonder if the Hatter has... No, it's just mismatched eyes. Sitting in the back of her head, without a single meaningful thing in my mind, I was watching. She stood in the courtroom, arm thrust before her commandingly, a wild smile on her face. She wore a regal red dress. She wore a regal red dress, adorned with gold and black and red ribbon. Her hair was blonde, her skin was pale, but her eyes were red and certainly not blue. Behind her stood the white rabbit, ears quite straight, a mad grin on her face, with mad papers, with mad scrawl in her hand. Your Majesty. The body moved without me thinking to do anything. I no longer cared to do anything. The body talked without me thinking to say anything. I no longer cared to say anything. It didn't matter. If I could have, I would have stopped watching. It was not because the sights were horrific, but because I no longer wanted to deal with anything and everything, not even the matters of the Red Queen. A dog, a cat, a bird, a girl, a boy, a person who was neither, a mother, a father, an elderly. One by one they came to be judged. Some begged, some cried, some fought, some silently accepted their fates. The rabbit read out their accused crimes for show, allowing for the Red Queen to proceed. However, there existed only one result: guilty. At some point, she began to laugh. At some point, I began to laugh. I am not going to do this. I'll try to screenshot this. As ruler, I have sovereignty over my citizens, and at the same time, a responsibility to make this kingdom prosper. A prosperous kingdom must have law and order. Do you understand? Off to the gallows. Be glad for mercy, criminal. Glory to Her Majesty for her benevolence. Cards, bring the next one in for Her Majesty. The accused was reported by her brother-in-law for engaging in gossip and planning treason against the crown by speaking ill of Her Majesty. A simple sentence, a simple beheading for this bird. Bring her away. Cards? The accused was caught evading taxes. She was also seen stealing from upright citizens, assaulting merchants, and spreading rumors about Your Majesty's state of mind. She was only apprehended recently, as the cards were unable to capture her previously. Break her legs. Your Majesty is truly brilliant. As for her sentence, cut off her arms so that she can't commit crimes any longer when she reaches the afterlife, and cut off her arms so that she can't commit crimes any longer when she reaches the afterlife, and throw her away into prison to await execution by skinning. What will a cat rug look like without arms? A criminal's skin is much too rough for a good rug. Off with the cat. She seemed to think for a moment and snapped her fingers, rending the cat's arms from her body in an instant. Oof. And to execute the cards who failed to catch her before. We have no need for worthless cards. Next. The Red Queen. I didn't know if she was happy. While she convicted the accused, I inadvertently began to lose track of my surroundings, only to be jolted back by a particularly interesting sentence. The accused. Before the rabbit finished speaking, the accused rushed at the Red Queen. The Red Queen gestured with her hand. An unseen power slammed the criminal down to the ground, creating a crack on the marble flooring of the courtroom. Presumptuous. The force tore fingertip-sized meat piece by piece from the criminal, leaving it writhing on the floor as it rolled around trying to get her to stop. Have you forgotten who you belong to? The Red Queen finished once the criminal was stripped into a pile of red pulp on the ground to be swept away by the cards. I was smiling. The Red Queen was smiling. Next. The day in court continued until the courtroom was devoid of life. She worked on paperwork after court. Between stacks, she conversed with ministers who sweat nervously each time she met their beady eyes. Finishing up her important documents, she proceeded to go for a brisk walk and practice swinging a sword here and there. Bringing the Red Queen a towel and water, the rabbit asked if she wanted to visit the White Queen today, which the Red Queen decided against. Dinner time arrived soon enough. She sat in a large dining room at the head of a long table, all alone. A sumptuous meal was served with red wine before her, but she had no one to share it with. The food tasted all right. More importantly, it had been poisoned. The chef used just a little too much, so that the meat began to lose its charm and turn to mediocrity. The Red Queen called the chef over. His eyes darted around the room wildly, knowing that he had nowhere to escape. His legs shook, and he fell to his knees, beginning to beg. The Red Queen took a sword from a decorative suit of armor in the room. Off with his head for daring to poison the queen. Watching as the servants cleaned away the chef's remains, she returned to her meal, which had been quickly replaced. She, drank a sip of wine, poisoned wine. Ooh. The next day, dismemberment. I don't think I got that. I don't think I got that letter before. A new E. E. The next day, she returned to the courtroom. One by one, the numbers diminished again. Even those in the jury were not spared if they made the slightest slight. The rabbit smiled with glee, writing down the names of the criminals who were to be executed. Not a few times, she took the job herself, an axe in hand and boots squelching in blood. Honestly, I'm actually pretty liking this new take of the White Rabbit. The Red Queen enjoyed her judgment court. Wonderland was her domain, and its people her pieces. If they became disobedient, she would never let them throw her possessions into disarray. Some days she didn't go, working on governance. Other days she did, working on her world's peace. These times continued, until one day, the Red Queen fell asleep when I was still awake. Oh, okay. Curling my fingers, I discovered I was in control. I walked over to the balcony, seeing the ground terribly far away. I lifted myself over the balustrade and threw myself off. Ah, clever, clever. Air rushed past my face. Splat. Falling, falling, falling. I was falling again, back through time. The interstice between the different times and different worlds was still incomprehensible as before. My body knitted together from its mangled form, and I returned to Wonderland. Falling, I fell straight into a table. Bam! Oh, we're back here. Okay. I had returned to an iteration of the Hatter's place. Sprawled out on the table, I glanced upward and saw that familiar pair of mismatched eyes, unfamiliar. She jumped, looking surprised. Do I know you? Do I know you? No, not quite. Could you get off of the table? I do need to put down the tea and snacks at some point, if you understand. Oh, we went back in time. She smiled. The Hatter seemed different, as if a heavy weight had yet to settle on her shoulders. She still has bags on her eyes, though. I got off the table and stood awkwardly around the unfamiliar place. The Hatter set down her teapot. She was preparing a tea party of sorts, causing me to realize that I had never seen her do set up as things were always already on the table. What's your name? Alice. I'm Alice. You should be Hatter. Mm-hmm. She formed her lips into an O. Is there somewhere you need to go so badly that you nearly broke my table? No, I've nowhere. Well, why don't you take a seat? No one uses that armchair over there. Much too armchair, they said. You know how armchairs are, right? She made a wide smile. I hesitantly approached my armchair. The chair looked newer than mine before. When I sat on it, I sank into the soft cushions. Even though it reminded me of a hammer through my skull, the chair did nothing wrong. I clutched my chest. You aren't having tea? Well, what time is it? This person hated me. Perhaps she did not hate me yet in the moment that we were meeting now, but she hated me all the same in the future, in my present. I shouldn't have cared, but my heart hurt. The clock says 15 minutes before 4. It's almost tea time. Maybe it already is. I'm waiting for March and Dormouse, so it's surely not yet tea time. Tea time, after all, is just a state of mind. I see. You look sad, Alice. Do I? I raised my hand to my face, touching my cheek. I certainly was not smiling. What's your favorite tea? She retrieved the tea set to place on the table, bringing not 3 cups but 4. 1 cup and saucer was put before me. I enjoy black tea. Recently, I've grown fond of Earl Grey. What about you, Hatter? She winked. I like any tea, but I also rather like Earl Grey. I'm not sure why it's rather than a count or a duke, but I'm sure the tea tastes best as an earl. I've heard that it's named after a minister, or perhaps the minister was named after a tea, or perhaps the minister was named after a tea. Fancy that! Your name is Grey, so Her Majesty tells you to become Earl Grey. The Hatter looked happier. A film of water built up over my vision, turning it blurry. I must have gotten something in my eyes. A hiccup bubbled up my throat. The water wouldn't stop. Though still smiling, she started to look worried. Why are you crying? Tears rolled down my cheeks as I hurriedly tried to wipe them away with my hands. The Hatter looked completely concerned now. I really cannot explain. This is so odd. Awkwardly, she smiled. Eat cake. Do you like cake? Would you rather a sandwich or maybe something salty? If you're lacking in salt and sugar, you'll go a little crazy like that. She poured me a cup of tea and passed me some cake with a set of utensils she was getting out. She gave a caring look. It tastes good. Drinking the tea and eating the cake, I noticed a much more amateurish flavor than my Hatter, the future Hatter, would make. However, it tasted good, and maybe it tasted happier. My shoulders shook up and down for a while. I cried for the longest time I had cried since I was a toddler, rubbing my eyes pink. Once my tears stopped, I cleared my throat and averted my eyes from the Hatter. Compliments to you, Hatter. The Hatter beamed. Why, thank you. We sat together in a peaceful silence for a while afterward, before she turned her head and exclaimed, There they are! For the memories. A sleepy little mouse in a hare with a straw hat approached from the forest path. They looked just like the little puppets my Hatter wore often in her hands. Looking at me in curiosity, they took their seats at the table. A guest? Looks like a pest. Don't be rude, March. There's already a crowd. No room, no room. 3's a crowd, but 4 is a party. If you get 5, then, well, we can think about that later. Don't make a girl cry, March. This is Alice. This is March Hare. This is Dormouse. Hatter poured some tea for both of them and they began to chat, glancing toward me and tucking me into the conversation, even as the ramblings devolved into nonsense. Halfway through each topic, a dormouse seemed to snooze off and dip her little nose into her tea by accident. Did Hatter make you cry, Alice? She's a lady killer, she is. I've always known it. Dormouse, wake up for the gossip. I'm right here, March. She looks like butter. It's the yellow hair. Butter. She looks a little silly, like her brain's been all churned up, but she looks like good butter. I couldn't help but crack a side smile at their antics. More sunny than buttery. Do you want butter, Alice? No, thank you. I'm quite all right. But at the side, psst, Alice. The March Hare and Dormouse pulled me to the side for a private conversation. Hatter seems to fancy you. Not so directly. Don't raise your voice, Dormouse. No, don't raise your voice. Dormouse. Shh. That's usually my line, March. You can't own lines now, can you? March is right that Hatter looks fondly upon you. You do seem nice. Kind of dumb. She seems nice. I still approve. I am just saying, alright? Be kind to Hatter. Be good to our Hatter. We can't be around her forever, so you have to promise this, Alice. I have a feeling that this is very important. Swear it on a stick of holy butter. I won't be here for very long. But no, I'll promise it. I swear on everything that could ever be precious to me, that I'll treat her well if we meet again. And she's back to bed. Dormouse. We returned to the Hatter. The four of us continued chatting over tea. I enjoyed tea time today. I really did. Yet I didn't belong here, and I didn't deserve here either. I knew that my presence would just throw everything into disarray. Finishing my tea, I stopped the Hatter from refilling my cup. The Hatter shaped her mouth into a surprised "Oh." "Oh, I haven't saved in a while, haven't I? Okay. I had a wonderful time today. I have to leave. This place isn't mine. But thank you for the tea again, Hatter. And you too, March, Dormouse." The Hatter smiled. "It was nice meeting you, Alice. I already knew you from the future, but I was happy to see you. Hatter, it was a shame that my Hatter didn't feel the same way." "Alice, what did you feel for the Hatter?" "Something precious." The Hatter winked with her cheeky grin. You know, what I like about this relationship more than the White Queen, again, I wasn't pursuing either of them actively, but I feel like the relationship with Hatter feels more natural, while with the White Queen, it does feel a little forced. It just irks me a little whenever Alice says she's so pretty again and again and again and again. But with Hatter, it just feels more organic. The Hatter winked with her cheeky grin. "See you later." I wanted her to be happy. Auf Wiedersehen. Giving her a weak wave, I left the happier Hatter. I didn't particularly have a place to go. Home, that was no longer my goal. Walking away, I wiped away the tears that welled up again. Eventually, I was falling again. I died. That much I understood. However, I seemed to have forgotten how I died this last time. In a way, I knew that I couldn't keep doing this. Oh, I got it. I got a new one. Final goodbye. Alice, this was your last iteration. The power letting you keep falling had already run out. The next time, you wouldn't come back to Wonderland at any time. As my body pieced itself back into place, I waited for myself to stop falling. I burst back into my relative present and hit the ground softly. Laying back flat on the ground, I grasped at the grass below me and cut my fingers on their blades. Above me, the sky was terribly blue. No matter who I was, the world would move on without me. However, people could not so simply move on. Be it a matter of hate or a matter of love, or just a matter of apathy, the connections that people had were difficult to sever. Before I realized it, a certain person had settled into my heart. Who is it? Oh, okay, I got Hatter. Okay. I want to see Hatter. My Hatter. Alice, you really are no good. Alice, you really are no good. No, it's better to say that I really am no good. I had already fallen for that Mad Hatter. She wormed her way into my heart unintentionally as she threw me on a wild duck chase for the Red Queen's dismembered parts in her revenge. I wondered how she felt now that she had her goal fulfilled. The final look on her face that I saw before I died was painful. It was painful, not because of the crushing of my skull, but because of the constriction of my heart as I looked at her. A strange girl, a lonely girl, ultimately a terribly kind girl who was stumbling along a bloody path. That was who the Hatter was. I'm sorry. I pushed myself up. Useless Alice had a want, not one of obligation, not one of what should be, because really, had I really wanted to go home? Not one that tutors or anyone forced upon her. I went to find the Hatter. I went to find the Hatter. I started walking. I started running. Down that forest path once more. There she was, all by her lonesome. The bags under her eyes had not lightened at all, and she listlessly played with the rim of a teacup until she suddenly saw me. She frowned deeply. Why? She harshly stood up. Why did you come back? She became enraged. Sisa? Sisa? Labas ka? Baby? Sisu also has mismatched eyes. One of them is blue and the other one is yellow/green. Okay, she's just chilling now. Okay. Why can't you just disappear? Grabbing a plate off of the table, ignoring the pastry atop it, she chucked it at me. Smash! The plate brushed me and shattered on the ground, leaving a mangled lump of sweets and porcelain. Alice. Alice. She slammed the table, originally forcing her hands down with great momentum before suddenly slowing down when she smacked it. Wincing, the Hatter let out a pained, guttural noise. Why are you like this? I hate you, Alice. She clutched her chest and glared at me with murky, watery eyes. Why are you like this? I had no answer. She had a conflicted, wobbly frown. You're contradictorily cruel and kind. You're messed up, Alice. Just choose one thing to be, you heartless woman. I like you. I like you. But I also hate you. I also liked her. I loved her. She became enraged. You're a useless freeloader who just comes to bother me. What a waste of space. She became flustered. You're Alice who always accompanies me and extends a hand to me. The Hatter began to cry. You're the Red Queen. Monster. Killer. I hate you. She yelled as she cried, furious tears running down her cheeks. Why couldn't you have properly just died? I killed you. You're the same thing as the Red Queen. You shouldn't have come back. You... She picked up a teacup and threw it at me, smashing me right in the forehead. I stumbled back. Hot tea spilled down me, mixing with the blood that came from the simple flesh wound. The cup itself shattered into tiny pieces on the ground. Go away! She grabbed the bloody hammer off the table and flung it, missing me by a far margin. It whooshed through the air, spinning, and lodged itself deeply into a tree behind me. My blood was still on the metal face. We're back to the present now, okay? Tell me who you're supposed to be. Nice. I am Alice. I am Alice. The Hatter raised her brows. The Red Queen and I are one and the same. But I am Alice. Her essence is intertwined with mine. But I am me and me alone. I'm scared of the idea that we could become the same. I never want to become someone like her. An empty heart, an empty life. Even as she lashes out to the rest of the world, she's still empty. Admittedly, I'm also no good. I'm a heartless person who hurts others as well. But I hold just two sentences. I am Alice. Alice is me. If of I who am Alice, you are the person who took my heart. Is it okay to say I'm Alice? I nervously fiddled with my fingers behind my back, looking at the Hatter as my heart raced. I couldn't read her expression behind those mismatched eyes. She wiped her eyes with her sleeves, opening her mouth time and time again. She seemed to have trouble finding her words. I like the Alice who is Alice. The Red Queen scares me, but if you let me believe it, I want to believe that you are Alice. She made a tired frown, brows furrowed, upset. Ever since March and Dormouse left, time has stopped in the tea time like a curse. I'm tired of tea, she cried out. Is my life just for revenge on the Red Queen? She looked up at the sky as if lost. The Red Queen is dead. deliberately mouthing the words slowly again. She seemed to convince herself of that reality. Then she looked back toward me. She gave me a somber smile. Alice. You are Alice. That smile disappeared as quickly as it came. She looked flustered now. Her voice grew small as she gazed downward to her feet. I hurt you. I know. I extended the hand. I can't just ignore that this sounds like a very slightly toxic relationship, but we'll see. I extended a hand toward her. She who was all alone. She who stood so close yet so far away. I wanted for her to take my hand. We were both problem children. Yeah. Perhaps I was a little mad. She slowly walked before me, looking at my hand as if seeing something foreign. She raised her brows a bit. Lifting her arm up, she reached out her hand shakingly. Her fingers trembled and hovered over my hands. For a moment she retracted her hand. Then she placed her hand in mine. I love you, Hata. Alice. She stared at me, trying to ascertain the truth of my words. With a deep, shaky breath, she gave me her response. She smiled. I love you too. Would you accompany for a dance, give me a kiss, and make me happy? She asked of me just 3 things. I can't make you happy. I wish that I could fulfill all 3 of her requests. A physical item or a physical deed, those I could easily accomplish. But one of the heart, I knew not if I could. I don't know if we can make each other happy. But I placed a kiss upon her lips. She frowned. That's fine. Even if I have no ability to promise such things, I want to let you be happy. You are my dearest precious person. The Hatter smiled somberly. I want you to be happy, Alice. At least we're acknowledging the fact that we can't just have a happy relationship like this. Okay. That makes me happy. She looked at me fondly. Not just like this. More so. Whoa. Nice. I took her hand and we danced upon the table. Spinning about, our feet tangled with the tablecloth and tea sets strewn about. She pulled her hat off for a moment. We looked at each other with sad smiles. Hata, if the world were to end tomorrow, what would you do? I have nothing left for here for me, Alice. So I suppose I would do nothing. You're still right here with me, aren't you? She was so light. I wish I could show you my world. It's not a particularly spectacular world. Rather, it's utterly unfantastical. Yet, there were things that I liked. Maybe my siblings, or better, the 2 cats, if you care for cat at all. I would have liked that. I pulled her along, leading the mad dance. With no music, we moved to the erratic tempo for hearts together. Alice. Why did you fall in love with me? Maybe it was just fate. Maybe it was just luck. Meeting you time and time again here, I grew fonder and fonder of you. At first, I simply thought you were lonely, but eventually I fell in love with your heart. Love. I've never known about love before. I'm not sure if I can truly explain with my heart, if I can truly explain why my heart beats as it does for you, Hatter. Even that aside, you're cute. You can cook and sew and brew good... You can cook and sew and brew good tea. You're wrong. You're actually one of a kind. What about you to me? I should ask that to you instead. Happiness, probably we had no such fate, but we wished for it. Finally, we fell. Falling. We were falling. down this rabbit hole with no start nor end. We were falling together. I knew not where we would fall, for there were no more wonderlands for us to fall to. That world we just fell from had been the very last iteration. I embraced the Hatter and closed my eyes. How warm she was, the person who I treasured. I only asked for a world where we could be happy together. Surely we would meet again in a land much more wonderful than this. Somewhere, sometime, surely. Are we waking up in the real world? Or did I get... Lyradin. Major props to Lyradin or Lyradin. I'm not exactly sure. And Pumpkin Spike for the CGs. And Yuki Pudding, the sprite art. It's very, very good. The UI, Papaya. Great, awesome. Programming by Justin. Let's see. Made with Brand P, of course. So the clues I got stacked here, actually a lot of the letters repeated again and again. But it's basically, I think, I may have missed one letter, which is A. I got the Alice ending. Nice. Thank you for playing. So I think I might have just gotten... I missed one letter, but I think the secret word is Alice question mark. I don't have the letter A. Script scene, 62%. And I guess that is it for Who is the Red Queen. I'm not gonna go into trying and getting any other ending. This game is free and can be played in both itch.io and Steam, so if you'd like to get the other endings yourself, please feel free to do so. It's the linked in the it should be linked in the description below. What are the extras? Oh, okay. You're dead. Oh, it's a selection. Okay, I thought. Okay, cut-ins. Oh, there's an unlocked one. CGs. Okay. Free. I'm guessing, yeah. I don't know if this was intended by the games, but I guess the only romantic characters are the White Queen and the Hatter. Music. Ah, there it is. Oh, wait, no. Oh, I'm dumb. I didn't see the A. Alice question mark. There it is. Yeah, I got it. Endings. Got the Alice ending. There's two more. Okay. Well, that is it. Thank you so much for watching this for as long as you have. And yeah, see you in the next game. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more indie games like this. It would be extremely helpful to the channel. And if we get to 500 subscribers, we will go ahead and open up the community tab to set up polls. That is it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.